Hello everyone! I've uploaded the story of Dawn of the Aspects before, but back then my innocent self used a bit of video material from the movie How to Tame a Dragon, which the YouTube copyright system didn't appreciate. Luckily, we have Khayllys who worked on magic to bring the story to life, so here's the re-upload of Dawn of the Aspects. I hope you'll enjoy. Also, as a side note, it's pretty cool to listen back to the speculation at the end of this video in correlation with the information we have right now with the new chronicles and whatnot. Pretty damn awesome.
Alrighty, the whole setup is that the four aspects, Alexstrasza, Ysera, Nosdormu and Khayllys, come together at Wyrmrest Temple as they always do. However, since they fulfill their destiny, the older aspects don't see the point anymore.
For the dawning of the Age of Mortals has begun.
Khayllys, who only recently received his aspect powers, wants the group to stay together, but he fails to convince the others. They plan to split up the Wyrmrest Accord with the next meeting. Khayllys flies over the bones of Galakrond, father of all dragons, and inside the bones he finds a strange artifact. This artifact unwillingly drags him into the mind of past Malygos. This has some nasty side effects on him, since the relic is not working as it should. Being so close to the corpse of Galakrond has corrupted the device. It takes control over Khayllys, forces him to transform between dragon and human, and it makes him fly around the world without him even knowing. Eventually, Jaina finds out about Khayllys' predicament and she tries to find a way of saving him. As I said, Khayllys enters past Malygos' mind, and with past Malygos, I mean Malygos before the aspects receive their powers. Malygos, the Proto-drake. In this time, the Proto-drakes are still very primal. Most can't think beyond eat, sleep and reproduce, but some are starting to evolve to a higher level. The future 5 aspects, Malygos, Alexstrasza, Ysera, Nosdormu and Neltharion, are of course amongst those Proto-drakes already evolved. The problem that they're facing is in this time Galakrond all of a sudden is starting to hunt Proto-drakes and is starting to hunt in their area. Galakrond is not a dragon, instead he's a mutated Proto-drake. What happened was that he became so big that the food in his area couldn't sustain him anymore. To survive he started to eat his own kind, and that even amongst these primal Proto-drakes was simply not done. This also had a weird side effect on him. On one part is that he pukes out his victims, and these victims become zombie drakes. They hunger for the flesh of their own kind, they have an attack, a breath attack that melts away flesh, and they can bite others to transport the disease, turning those into zombies. Another effect was that it transformed Galakrond even more, made him even bigger and even more hungry. Eventually he would become so hungry that he would start to eat the zombie drakes. Yes, the drakes that he already had devoured, he puked those out, they become zombie drakes, and then he would devour them once again because he was just so hungry. Thankfully, the second time that he puked them out, they wouldn't come back to life. Anyways, besides that disgusting little fact, he became a threat to the Proto-drakes, so something had to be done. The first fight was Galakrond versus the United Proto-drakes, and this was unique for that time. As I said, they were still very primal, but one Proto-drake managed to get them to work together. The first attack failed of course, but thankfully the future aspects survived. The second fight was Galakrond versus Tyr and the future aspects. For those that missed out on my Titans and Old God video, Tyr was one of the keepers of Ulduar. He was not a Titan, but a Titan keeper. It is rumored that Tyr was the one who led the first humans who descended from the Vrykul away from Northrend and into the rest of the world. The location Tyr's Hand, for example, is named after Tyr. This is all just speculation though, so let's focus on the facts. In the story, Tyr uses the artifact that Khayllys found and he uses it to make a copy of the memories of the aspects. He then comes up with a plan to fight Galakrond together with the aspects, but they fail. Tyr's hand gets bitten off and both his hand and the artifact go inside the stomach of Galakrond. Round 3 was Galakrond versus the future aspects. Although Tyr had a very nice plan, it revolved around using his strengths instead of those of the future aspects. They get together and they come up with a plan that requires teamwork and makes the most use out of their individual strengths. Neltharion was physically very strong, Alexstrasza was born to be a leader, Malygos was already very smart, Nosdormu was punctual and had a great sense of timing, and Ysera was able to dream of things others would write off as impossible. They fight Galakrond and with the use of their teamwork they save the day. After that, Tyr and the other keepers asked them if they want to become guardians of the world in case something like Galakrond would ever happen again. This part was the whole reason why I was so interested in the story, but it's described very vaguely. I'll read a bit out of the book. Near them, 2 more hooded figures materialized, and that's the Titan keepers. The newcomers raised their hands. He also suddenly sensed that there was another greater presence acting through the keepers. That presence being the true force bringing about the Proto-dragons' coming transformations. The Titans. It is happening, the Blue Dragon thought. The Titans are the ones overseeing the transformation, the creation of the aspects. As they raised their hands, the figures also changed. They began to grow. Their hoods and cloaks fell away, revealing 4 giants akin in appearance to Tyr, when he had fought Galakrond. The keepers continued to swell in size and their bodies glowed with tremendous power. And that's where it ends. That's the complete description of how the dragons received their powers. I was so disappointed that this was all that we got. So Khayllys was just seeing this as he was in the mind of Malygos, and Jaina was trying to get him out of there, but he was torn apart between seeing this moment and following Jaina. And unfortunately he chooses to follow Jaina instead of actually witnessing how they received their powers. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing. Jaina saves the day, but she did not do it alone. As she is searching for an answer, she goes to the same place as Khayllys went, and there she sees a vision of a Tonka who gives her the key to fixing the artifact. Khayllys also saw this vision as he found the item, so it's heavily suggested that this vision is actually Tyr trying to help them. Throughout the story they also see glimmers of a hooded figure, which once again implies that Tyr is out there, somewhere. Like I said, Jaina manages to save Khayllys and he decides to use the artifact as Tyr intended for it to be used. He brings the aspects together and he shows them the visions of their past. Tyr suspected that there would come a day where they would need a reminder of who they truly were before they became aspects. Even though they used up all of their aspect powers, they were already something before they got those powers, so they can be something again. It's just a matter of finding a new place in this world, and they decide not to disband the Wormrest Accord. And there you go, that's the short version of the story. Now there are a couple of lore things that I would like to summarize, just to make it clear. Galakrond is not the father of all dragons. The Titans are the ones who transformed Proto-dragons into dragons. They let this myth exist to avoid having to explain about how he ate all of his fellow drakes and just avoid that nasty history. To the question what will happen with the aspects, they used all of their aspect powers to defeat Deathwing, so there's no longer a Keeper of Time or a Guardian of the Dream. That's gone, and they're also mortal. We don't know exactly how old they can get because no dragon has ever died of old age yet. That doesn't make them powerless though. They had qualities and powers even before they became aspects, so they at least have that. They will always have a certain connection to the aspect, like Alexstrasza will always treasure life, and Khayllys will always be drawn to magic. That's just something that's part of them. What will their role be in this world? Who knows, but you can be sure that when Blizzard needs them, they'll be part of a story again. The battle with Galakrond is where Tyr lost his hand, and it's suggested that Tyr is still somewhere out there. It's not explained why he abandoned his Watcher's Tower or why he escaped the corruption of Loken, but I think that the theory of him guiding the early humans might not be so crazy. As I've told you guys before, Neltharion fell victim to the whispers of the old gods because he was the aspect of Earth. He had a connection to the places where the old gods were locked up. However, in this story it becomes clear that Neltharion already heard the whispers of the old gods even before he received his powers. There's a small one line that explains this in the book. As the Titans ask the aspects if they want to become guardians, Neltharion stares off into the distance as if he's listening to something that isn't there. It doesn't mean that his powers didn't push him over the edge, but it was nice to see that they were already working his mind. Out of all of this, we can be sure that the Titan Keepers have the ability of communicating with the Titans, since they summon the Titans to grant the powers. This does create some questions in my mind, as in, why didn't they call the help for the Titans before? Why didn't they tell the Titans about Deathwing, for example, as he attacked Wyrmrest Temple? Or why didn't Raden contact them when they fell silent? We could speculate on answers, of course, like maybe the Titans are testing us, maybe they're training us, or maybe something entirely different happened.
Oh! We have fallen.
Either way, that's the end of my story, guys. Now this is just a short version. I'll place a link in the description if you want to buy the book and read it for yourself. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. Subscribe if you like my videos. And until next time, guys. See ya!